So welcome to part 2 of this podcast. And I'm just going to delve right into it because in part 1, I took the time to actually talk about all the contextual background for why I am bringing out this knowledge. And I've said, look, it's not really a new knowledge. It's knowledge that's very old. And the part 1 is basically to give the contextual background of why this knowledge is old, where it actually comes from. Now, if you're not comfortable with the story so far, then stop listening. It's your choice, okay? But if you've come thus far, then welcome, because now we're going to delve right into it. And we're going to go into a lot of science, all right? Now, mainstream science is useful for understanding how organized complexity flows in the real world, okay? I reference it a lot. I've been studying mainstream science for as long as I can remember. I was 4 years old when I started asking my first questions regarding science, when I first came across my first science book. And since then, I've been asking the same questions, okay? Just in different forms, but it's always been about the same question. It's about trying to understand the reality of God, because I think the reality of God is the most important question in human existence. Why it is relegated to religion that is sort of like an addendum to your reality is just strange to me. How can we have such a thing hanging over ourselves as human beings? And nobody knows the truth or the falsehood of it. You're just asked to believe. And then people start killing each other for something they've been asked to believe. How can you believe? See, when somebody comes to you and says, just believe in what? It's not the doctrine or the words or what. You can never believe in doctrine or words. You believe in people. You believe in things. Okay? And so when somebody asks you, believe in what I'm telling you, what the person is basically saying is, believe in me. Now, if you don't know the person, on what basis do you start to believe in that person? What basis? Now, if you say the basis is what the person is saying, then have you checked for the veracity of that thing the person is saying? How do you know it's true? That's why I keep telling people, don't believe me. Go check for yourself. Go investigate yourself. Okay? I want you to believe me. I'm not your guru. I'm not the one that you hold up to a pedestal and things like that. Absolutely not. So go check for yourself. Go look for yourself. All right. I'm just putting down the breadcrumbs and the trails, because when I do a reading, a natal chart synthesis, is one of the ways where I actually practicalize some of these things, because that's the knowledge I'm bringing into your natal chart. That's the knowledge I'm bringing into your reading, because what I do with readings is I try to see the individual as they are, because it's not like the individual doesn't know who they are. They're not coming to me for a reading so that I can tell them who they are. They're coming to me for a reading so I can remind them who they are. Now, if what I'm saying to them in the reading, if it resonates with them and can remind them of who they are, then that's progress. Okay? But nobody can really tell you who you are. Nobody has that kind of power over your sovereignty. Nobody's your God. Okay, so I talked about a CEE, and a CEE is what I call a complexly evolving ensemble, and I define that in my book. I define for the very first time a complexly evolving ensemble as a competitively constrained self-organizing scheme, simply because it expresses mechanisms for memory and intelligence through multiply localized decision-making units. That is, they constitute a huge network that forms a distributed lattice. A CEE can also be understood as a dynamical system because learning is a dynamical process. CEEs are made up of ensembles of knowledge spaces that are related to each other by the way a learning agent understands. A complexly evolving ensemble is an evolving organization whose decay of equidistributed order formation on a prescribed level is cyclic, while simultaneously obeying an evolutionary scaling equation for growth. People have published, like I said, my pinned tweet on my Twitter account, right, is my annoyance that some group of people from Carnegie University went and stole these ideas and published it as their own. They rewrote them and then published it as their own and called it a discovery for a new law of nature. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? Don't take my word for it. It's on my pinned tweet on my Twitter account. My Twitter account is Paul Haniel Okolo as one word. It's annoying, it's ridiculous. Things that came from me so personally, they're like my children. And then some group of people just come from somewhere and just hijack the whole thing from you and go publish it in a prestigious journal and say, oh, look at what we discovered. Look at what we created. Where aren't we so great? But that is the reality that you live in. That's the nature of your reality. And that's why I say that, see, the 21st century reality that white supremacy has constructed is entirely built on a system of denial. It's an entirety of a fraud. All of it from top to bottom. It's all fake. It's built on a lie. Do you now understand why it always leads to the same outcome? Because the river of denial always carries it to the same place, because some types of human beings, they tend to want to do the same thing over again because they have something inside them that is unhealed, unrecognized. It doesn't want to grow up. So you think that there's a way that you can manipulate the whole thing so you can deceive the creator of the entire universe. What you get is laughter. Because that's what you will do to a child who's doing, you just laugh. Because what is it doing? What does it think it's doing? Well, you will see it for yourself eventually. That's how lessons are learned. Okay? Now, in short, a complexly evolving ensemble harbors a special type of dynamic, representing a competitively constrained, self-organizing scheme. And this enables various parts of it to choose which knowledge states it visits based on a history of which knowledge state has been visited. You understand what that means? That's the way memory works, right? So I'm explaining to you the physical reasons, for why you need memory in the physical universe, right? Now, I'm reading this from my book. It's also on my website. So if you want to go look at my website, what is organized complexity, as the menu on my website, you can read all these things for yourselves. So a complexly evolving ensemble is recognized as an ensemble whose different aspects or states are always in perfect harmonic relationship with each other, no matter the combination of aspects taken into consideration. That's functional harmony. And in my book, I describe to you what that functional harmony is, where it comes from, and how it is assembled. A prescriptive knowledge space is also a functionally specific knowledge space distributed within a complexly evolving ensemble. So that prescriptive knowledge spaces, they are the things that eventually evolve into the complexly evolving ensemble. In fact, everything starts from the prescriptive knowledge space, and that prescriptive knowledge space is a functionally specific knowledge space. That's what the authors from Carnegie University, that's what they built their paper on. This notion of functions and how functions interact. And they called it a new law of nature. These are thieves, criminals, which fit the mold of what they have been doing for a very long time. So that they can come and tell you that they invented everything. And you are just a cannon fodder. The thing about this is that some people say, oh, you sound so bitter or you sound so angry. Well, how would you feel if someone came to your house and kidnapped your children? Because that's exactly what is going on here in the discourse space. They have also done that in the physical space. They literally stole people. Listen, they stole the dead ancestors of people. They dug them up from the ground and looted them and carted them away. Do you have any idea what we're talking about here? Do you have any idea the consequences of these things? Do you have any idea what the whole world is about to experience? Do you have any idea? I don't know the words I can use to explain to you, because I've already told you in the first part that the children of Israel who left Egypt, in the narrative, in the Torah narrative, their minds were expanded beyond what anybody or any human has ever seen before. They literally saw the firstborn of the proverbial narrative Egypt die through an act of miracle. They saw the sea split. They saw all sorts of things. They saw darkness, or they saw the entire Nile turn into blood. They saw so many things. And yet when they got to the foot of the mountain of God, God stared. Just a staring, and they all died. It's trying to tell us something. And so if you are hearing my voice on this podcast, you are not ready. It's that simple. Nobody is. The evil has been too much. The mind has been so destroyed. There's so much. That's the way that the world is that the way white supremacy was built is that every conceivable evil, every potential, every possibility of wickedness and cruelty has already been enacted in a universe that has memory. That's what I'm reading to you now. That's what I'm explaining to you. A complexly evolving ensemble, it's a perspective from which you look at organized complexity. And every aspect of organized complexity connects. It doesn't matter whether you're looking at subatomic particles, you're looking at molecules, you're looking at single cellular organisms, you're looking at multicellular organisms, or you're looking at solar systems, galaxies, whatever. There's memory there because it is intrinsic to the behavior of organized complexity. That life itself really is the modeling of an environment. I mean, that environment could have been modeled without any type of memory. I mean, how did nature even know what a memory is? Have you ever asked yourself that? You see a memory in a computer, somebody has to build it in. But you build it in because you know what memory is, because you have memory in the first place. So there's something to reference. Where did nature get the reference for memory? Where did nature know that biological systems need memory? It's because memory exists in the universe as part of the physical laws of nature. So if you think every nonsense that has been taking place in this world, that's the way that it is, you don't know what you're talking about. You haven't understood the problem. It hasn't really connected with you what I'm talking about. That there is a reality that has an infinite pinnacle that we colloquially call God. But we have no idea what it is. You go to different religions and they keep mumbling nonsense. They think it's a joke. They think it's a game. They think it's one of these things. It's just one of those things. After all, you can use it and go and kill people and steal all their lands and all their wealth. And you get forgiveness. What do you think you are doing? I will pour some water on you in the name of Jesus and all your sins are washed away. Where do you think you are? What do you think this is? Because that sounds to me like a very deep type of insanity. Because there is order in this universe. That's what I'm trying to describe to you. There is an order that runs all the way from the very high